All right, we're back on the Laura Ingraham podcast. Oh, we got a lot to get to today. And make sure you subscribe. Go to Podcast One or anywhere you hear podcasts. You like to listen to podcasts. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And we're a huge reaction to this podcast. I mean, we're just so grateful. And tell your friends. And it's politics, the culture, and beyond. We decode the culture for you and have a fun time doing it. There's no point in being dour and negative and down, and we all fall into that trap, and it is a trap. We look at the world as it is, and not in some utopian way, and try to bring first principles, essential truths, basic truths, back to the fore. And one of the basic truths that I think has been muddled in recent years, really it's been going on for probably 2 decades to be exact, maybe even more. Christina Hoff Sommers wrote this book almost 20 years ago called The War Against Boys. And people thought, oh, come on, war against, what do you mean war against boys? Well, she pointed out that the rates of suicide, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, depression, despondency, alienation from family for men had been rising at an unacceptable rate. And that boys, especially in the classroom, were being given short shrift and shortchanged. And why this has been happening and what this does to a culture when men feel emasculated. Now, we arrive at this point now and we find that even the word masculinity is under attack. Because you can't say that masculinity means strength, physical strength, or strength of traditionally minded character. You can't say that because that's putting men in a box. That's not allowing men to be in touch with their feminine side. And now with the idea of gender morphing from one to the next, which itself is a lie, because biologically, just physiologically, you can't change your genetic makeup. Okay, can't do that. You can mess around with things and you could take hormones and do that, but your physical appearance changing does not mean that you ultimately are able to change your sex that you were born with. That's just impossible. But you do other things. So it's all become very fluid. So it's called gender fluidity. Well, what does this end up doing to our boys? And how has this affected boys today? They're struggling. They're still struggling. And what can we do about it? Well, there's a book that's really interesting. It's called The Boy Crisis. Warren Farrell, who's the author of The Myth of Male Power, and John Gray, he wrote the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. They wrote this book together. And, of course, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus was a global bestseller, #1 bestseller, one of the best-selling books, I think, of all time. But we're joined today by Dr. Farrell, who's going to shed light on what's happened in all those years since the War Against Boys came out, what's happened in the last 20 years, and what can we practically do about it as adults, as parents, as grandparents, and a lot of young people are listening to this podcast as well. What can we do as moving forward, not just complaining about what's happened? Dr. Farrell, it's good to talk to you. Are you feeling particularly toxic and masculine today?
Oh, every day, my toxicity.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I think we all probably have to work on the toxicity part. I know I do. Let's talk about where we are. I mean, when you say there's a boy crisis, please explain what that means.
Yes, I found that that boys in all 63 of the largest developed nations are falling behind girls in every single academic subject, and especially in reading and writing. And reading and writing are the two biggest predictors of success or failure. And so that really got my curiosity up. What was happening in these developed nations, and why were boys falling so far behind? I also found that the boys were falling behind in terms of their life expectancy is actually going down. That's the first time in recent history that the life expectancy of any group of people has gone down. Girls' life expectancy is remaining about the same recently, but boys is going down. So I was concerned with that. I was seeing that boys were dying from drug overdoses and opioid addiction at twice the rate of girls. I saw that when boys and girls were 14, they rarely committed suicide, and they committed suicide when they did. It was about equal, boys and girls. But so I started looking at that and realized that when they were from 15 to 19, the boys' suicide rate was twice that of girls. Between 20 and 24, the boys' suicide rate had gone to almost six times that of girls.
Oh my God!
And so I saw that as testosterone increased and the males were taking on this a role that they didn't feel that they were not feeling clear about, that they didn't know whether, since the Boy Crisis book has come out, dads and moms have written me, like, in seventh grade, the boys are learning that, masculinity is toxic, that they are part of the patriarchy, that they have male power, and they're told that when they start feeling, and they start explaining, and they say, well, what's toxic about masculinity? And the teachers will say, well, boys and men don't express their feelings. So my son starts expressing his feelings that he feels like it's not all about male power, because he feels like his dad is really working extremely hard, driving an Uber or collecting garbage or doing something that he doesn't see as being that much about power and privilege, and he's told he's mansplaining. And so he goes, wait a minute, Dad and Mom, 1 minute I'm told I'm not expressing my feelings, and the next minute when I do express my feelings, I'm told I'm mansplaining. And then he gets a little
So they don't understand. So let me hop in here. So what you're describing is that with the cultural and sociological changes and the pressure put on men to be, well, to I don't want to say sensitive, because I like a sensitive man, but to be suspicious of their instincts, that is part of the reason why they're committing suicide. That seems like a big leap, because people are calling them toxic. Feminists calling them toxic. You got celebrities kind of doing the demonization. You got Gillette ad making all men out to be beasts. So that's the kind of thing that's making them feel despondent?
No, that's just one contributor in that direction. The single biggest contributor, probably that leads to more problems for boys than any other single thing, and girls, by the way, too, is a lack of boundary enforcement, and also not creating enough of a bond with their parents by doing. And this is something that any mother, any father can do. There's really, most mothers contribute what I call mom-style parenting. And they really get in there and they care for their children. They do for their children. They nurture their children. But particularly when a mom is parenting by herself, she needs to incorporate both the mom-style parenting with the dad-style parenting. And there's two forms of dad-style parenting that are most likely to keep boys and girls really focused. One is boundary enforcement, and the second is creating a bond with the children by doing with the children. So instead of taking children to the playground, which is obviously a positive, but rather than looking at the iPhone while the children are doing their thing, it's doing with the children at the playground. Instead of playing soccer and watching the children play soccer, it's playing soccer with the children. Instead of making sure the children win as they're playing soccer every time, it's having them win when they're really making a good effort and lose when they're not making a good effort. It's letting children make mistakes within limits, within the limit of not obviously dying and things like that, but making mistakes, getting lost, teasing with kids, playing hide and seek with kids. These are all things that create a bond. Once the bond is created, then boundaries can be enforced without creating a resentment and an anger toward the parent.
Okay, I love this. It seems like it's common sense, but I'm telling you from my own life, and it seems like it's gone by so fast with just the kids. And I know every parent says that, but I have a 13-and-a-half-year-old, a 10-and-a-half, and an 8-and-a-half. Okay.
Wow.
So I'm in the thick of it. Now, a couple days ago, it was really warm weather in Washington, and I'm a big sports person. I like to watch sports, but I like to play sports. So I said, and my kids are very physical. The boys are physical. One's really skinny. He's really skinny and all legs. And the other one, Nico, is like a real brute, the young one. So I said, get the football, because we like to kick the football together. We kick, and then we do touch football, but just the three of us, so it's kind of it's fun. But we did it, and I looked at my watch. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to get going for my show. My show starts at 10 p.m. Okay, but I got to leave around 7:30 every night. So I got a lot of people helping me. It takes a village in my house, but it was so my kids were like, Mom, keep playing, and I literally flashed forward in my mind to like their wedding day, and I was thinking, I forget taking. I took my son to the Super Bowl. That was fun. It's a memory, but being with them and doing it real activity is what they're going to remember.
You are absolutely right.
And I don't think I've done that enough. I mean, I've done it a lot, but I'm kicking myself because I don't think I did it enough with my daughter. I was one of those mothers at the playground on my iPhone when she was swinging in the swings at times. I was one of those mothers. I'm embarrassed to say. I mean, I didn't do it all the time, but I did it some of the time.
So recognizing and acknowledging it is the first step in that direction. And we've always heard that at the end of a life, someone's on their deathbed, and they never say, "I wish I'd spent more time at the office." They
Right.
almost always say, "I wish I'd spent more time with my children. I wish especially I'd spent more time when they're younger." And
Yep.
and it's really important for, I think, moms to know that that roughhousing, getting down there, playing with, and that allows you to help the children. When one of your children is being rough with the other child, too rough, and you stop the roughhousing and say, okay, you can't do that. You can't put your elbow in your brother's or sister's face. That's not okay. And if you don't, if you continue doing that, there'll be no more roughhousing for tonight. And so then the kids they get caught in what psychologists call emotional intelligence under fire, and they once they're excited, they go back to doing the thing that makes them win again. And so you stop the roughhousing, and then the children know the next night that when you say you can't put your elbow in your sister's face, that means something.
Yeah, this is, and you write in the book, and we're talking about the boy crisis, and you would not know by watching the dominant media, they only talk about boys being the problem. Boys' aggression, that's the problem. Boys are the problem. Boys aren't in crisis. Boys are the problem. But this book kind of really lays it out and why it's important as adults that we put ourselves out there to help guide young people into making good choices by being active mentors. And my kids laugh at me because I'm a single mother. So I'm a single mom. So I'm having to be the nurturer and the disciplinarian. Mm-hmm. And it's I'm not trying to whine about it. This is my choice, and they're the wonderful adopted kids from Russia and Guatemala, and I mean they're my whole life, and they're just awesome. They're awesome, and they drive me crazy. But we laugh. I said, "You guys are driving me crazy," and so I'm always saying to myself, Dr. Farrell, okay, I have to hug a little, and be strong at the same. You got to hug, lots of hugging. But lots of line drawing.
Yes.
And it's hard. It's hard to do both. That's why it's best to have two parents. It's hard to do both as one person. But I try. But we're like having pillow fights last night. Nico hit me in the face, and I was like, I'm going to have a swollen face going to TV. So we have a pillow fight, and we call it bra. Okay, it's called bra because I come around a corner, I go, bra! So they say, can we play bra tonight? I'm like, okay, only if you're good. And so, but they remember, they'll never forget that. That is what they will remember about growing up, is the big pillow fights we have.
You're exactly right. You mentioned something here too. I want to really be very constructive for moms, especially single moms here,
Yep.
And also talk a little bit about Valentine's Day, if I may.
Yes.
You mentioned a little bit about mentoring. One of the best things you can do for your children is to find a good, solid male mentor. But even more important is finding someone your children can mentor. The development of character and responsibility for children, the likelihood of them not getting into the drug addiction we talked about, and the depression and the withdrawal that leads to the feeling alienated and the drug addictions and the mass shootings and so on. This is very much helped by your child having a mentor, because when your child has a mentor, he or she starts to look at everything she or he does as to, would this serve the person I'm mentoring well? And so you start developing the type of maturity that a parent develops. Another thing that's really important that it has proven itself out is getting your children involved in faith-based communities where there's a really good male minister, priest, or rabbi, and where that faith-based community, the faith-based community leader organizes groups of boys, especially for your son, boys that that can talk to other boys about the things that are going on inside of them that are bothering them, that boys oftentimes don't give each other permission to talk about, that leads to boys doing relationship breakups are far more damaging to boys than they are to girls, because boys keep it all to themselves. Girls talk to other girls with it. Another major area is family dinner nights. Having those family dinner nights in single-parent families is really not just important for the family dinner night, but knowing the guidelines that it takes to not have that family dinner night become a family dinner nightmare. And one of the key issues...
That sounds like my growing up, family dinner nightmare. We're talking to Dr. Warren Farrell. The book is The Boy Crisis, Why Our Boys Are Struggling and What We Can Do About It. This book, I've got to say, I've gotten through only about a third of it, but I'm a fast reader. I skipped through into, I'm on chapter 24, Emotional Intelligence and Mental Health. And you have to read this book. I know you hear people say that, but this for a parent, a grandparent, a mentor, a would-be mentor, and we all need to mentor people in our own ways. And I don't think many times I'm not a good mentor because I'm impatient, and it's my worst fault. I say this all the time, and I pray for patience. So in many ways, I'm not a good mentor, but you know what I'm finding out, Doctor? I'm not meaning to make this about myself, but it's a way I think I can relate to it and help our listeners.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
When I'm a really good sports mentor, okay, I'm a really good sports and writing. I'm a pretty darn good writer, and I'm a good athlete. So I try to stay away from the things I'm not good at, which like math, that kind of stuff. I'm not good at mentoring on studying for math, and but I'm good on so the stuff I'm good at, that's what I try to connect with. Does that make sense? And I stay away from the stuff I'm not good at.
As long as you're not taking the things that you're good at and doing them for the children.
Right.
So like if you're a good cook, it's really important for you not to cook for children, but to cook with the children, assigning responsibilities. And if the kids screw it up, letting them eat the consequences without shame.
That's absolutely hilarious. ADHD. We got to hit ADHD because this is something that we as parents have seen the rise of for many, many years. The medicated society. People rushing to Adderalls now being sold per pill on a per pill basis on college campuses, advanced learning centers of med school, law school. I'd never heard of it until I was out of law school. I'd never heard of Adderall. Never heard of it in my life. Now it's people. Oh yeah, my son's on Adderall, and I'm not going to question any parent's judgment on that. But we're talking methamphetamine for kids. Where are we there?
Yes, John Gray wrote the chapters on the book on ADHD and what to do to prevent ADHD, but also to prevent your children from being involved with drugs. And boy, it is amazing. So some real quickies. First of all, get your children involved in sports. Make sure they don't have the option to be active physically every day. They have the expectation that you enforce that as part of your parenting is to get kids physically active every day, and not just playing baseball where it's only about a third of a sport. But, like basketball, we are constantly running, constantly moving, lifting weights, that type of thing. Making sure your children are not eating sugars, not eating carbs. So focus in on that part of the book where it talks about all the things that you need to feed the children, do for the children, so that they develop their own immune system that isn't dopamine dependent, based on something that is false, like video game addiction or porn addiction. And so that's really important. Another, if I may switch for a little bit to Valentine's Day, because something that is so crucial for children is knowing how to appreciate. Most kids think of, they focus on falling in love, and falling in love is biologically natural. But sustaining love is biologically unnatural because sustaining love requires our being able to handle criticism. And biologically, we're not prone to being able to handle criticism without becoming defensive. And so knowing how to do that is a very important dimension of sustaining love. The other important dimension is knowing how to be to give appreciations. Many people say, Mom, that was a great dinner you made, and teaching our children to say, Mom, I really love the way that you got the turkey skin so crisp and the dressing so moist, and how did you do that? And so what you're teaching your children is being more specific about the appreciation, because when you hear your child say the skin's so crisp and the dressing so moist, you realize it's not just a compliment. You feel like you were seen. The efforts you made were seen and felt and tasted by your children. And the how do you do that? Did you do that question shows a curiosity and an interest that really allows the person that's being appreciated to feel appreciated.
Those are some tips of being grateful, but not general about your gratitude. Generalized gratitude, and again, I'm going back to my own personal circumstance, which probably people are really bored of by now, but I think it's kind of interesting. So every time we go somewhere, if we stay with somebody, we have dinner, they take us out on their boat. I have a lot of friends who've done really well, and I'm very grateful for their friendship if it comes to people, but I think maybe people just take pity on us. I don't know, doctor, but it's like, come out on our boat. So the kids have had a lot of nice experiences, but I say to them, we get home, the first thing you do is I want to see that thank you note. And the other day, Dimitri had written a thank you note. Now, this was for a fishing trip we went on. It was spectacular. I mean, you can't even imagine. I've never been on it. I said when I was little, my big vacation was going to the above ground pool of my friend Pam. It was about a postage stamp, and we dunked in that. That was it. That was my vacation. So I see. Thank you for having us on your boat. It was fun. Love, Dimitri. And I looked at him and I said, okay, where's your thank you note? He's like, there it is. I said, where's your thank you note? And he had to rip it up. And I said, tell me about the trip. What did you like? What about that fish when you grabbed it and it slipped out of your hands? I said, let's paint the picture of why this was a meaningful trip for you. And it took me 45 minutes, almost 45 minutes with him, because he was so mad that he had to spend the time. But I'm telling you something, that time that you invest now, he will not forget that. And their letters are better. Their thank you letters, thank you notes are better. And I hope they continue to get better. But the easy thing for me was to say, okay, good, put it in the mail, slap a stamp on it, send it off, and you're done. Check. But you can't do that, in my view. Doctor, I'll let you close it out.
For me, if the listener only heard what you just said, that was a great takeaway. That's exactly the type of difference between it is so easy to parent by, okay, check it off, but teaching that child, teaching your son or daughter how to appreciate specifically, how to review their day and thank the person for every dimension of that. That's a thank you note. I was working with the woman who became my wife. I'm doing that with her dad. And when I went to her dad's house, each of the the appreciation notes that she wrote to him were framed on her dad's wall. And it was like the first time the dad had really felt appreciated in such a specific way. The other dimension of that is making love is about not just an art. It's also about a discipline. And what you explained there in that, and what in your example, is the discipline of doing it again, and also the discipline of sharing appreciations at, say, maybe every Monday's dinner, or like every Monday at dinner, we go around the table and we share appreciations, and we share it in a very specific way, and we share it in a way that expresses curiosity, like, how did you cook the turkey to get the skin so crisp?
You're hungry. You're talking about that turkey a lot, Doc. He's like this. I can say this: Dr. Warren Farrell loves crispy skin turkey. Okay, that man loves.
Oh my goodness, you found me out.
Yeah, I mean, I could be a psychologist. Okay, because that's what I've been doing for 20 years in the media. I love this book. I love the fact that you spent so much time with us, and I'm so glad that there's a resource. It's kind of a Bible for parents in a very, very pressure-filled time for boys. There's a lot coming at them. But really, a lot of this is simply understood. And if it's like sports, so going back to sports, you have to swing a tennis racket 10,000 times to get that forehand down. I mean, to really get a great forehand, the athletes say it's about 10,000 times. You got to do it over and over and over. Tiger Woods said the same thing. The swing has to be over, and you just got to keep doing it. And Dr. Farrell, thank you so much. The book is The Boy Crisis: Why Our Boys Are Struggling. What can we do about it? And we're doing a lot here on the Laura Ingraham podcast. Thanks so much. Remember, if you want to be part of this show, ingram.podcast@gmail.com. We always love hearing from you. ingram.podcast@gmail.com. Give us your phone number and your name. We'll get you on. And again, we just love this conversation, and we love your thoughts on it. Stay there.